one out. Granit Xhaka. Twisting, turning. That's a penalty, is it? No, he's still going. Oh, how about that? How about that? Carried on into the penalty area. Here he is. And then Giroud. What a goal. Brilliantly worked. Fantastically finished.
Here's Ramsey. And Alexis Sanchez. Great footwork. 3-0. Liverpool blown away. A 3-goal, 8-minute Arsenal blast.
Alexis blocked by Newcastle defender. Still not clear. Wow, what a volley. Where others failed, Ozil has succeeded. Well done, Arteta. Plenty of hit here. Yes! Arsenal have their breakthrough. Mikel Arteta. They deserve it.
Oh, they're behind again. It's amazing. It's Aaron Ramsey. That's the response of Arsenal. Andy Iwobi, nicely done. Brilliantly done. Bayern Walcott. Sensational Arsenal goal.
Is that a handball? No. Nothing the play can do. Great, what a goal! Arsenal have made it 3-0. Jack Wilshere with an absolute thunderbolt.
Hello and welcome to the Clock End Talk podcast, an Arsenal podcast. However, this week we're actually going to be talking, look, it's been a wow of the fucking last 24 hours. So we're going to be talking everything Super League. Those who regularly tune in, you're not going to hear us talk about Fulham or the Slavia result. We will do that tomorrow at usual time. Tony, welcome, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm fucking shattered. It's been like a full-time job just keeping up with Twitter and whatnot. I mean, I've said it on here before that I have my Twitter as the newest post come up first. And when there's too many, it doesn't load them all and you have to press see more tweets and then it loads them all and loads them all. And usually that might happen only overnight because I've not checked it for 9 or 10 hours. Now, every time I go on Twitter, even if I only leave it half hour, there's been so much going on that I always have to load more tweets. It's crazy. It's like how when transfer deadline day was good and stuff used to actually happen. This is how Twitter has been for a day now. Like it's like on transfer deadline day, it's non-stop. You're always checking. There's always some update. Something's changed. Something that was definitely going to happen now definitely isn't, and vice versa. That's what this has been like. It's been fucking tiring. I'd step away from the phone for an hour to went boxing, and I come out and it's like everything's changed again, and this person's thrown in their 2 cents. The fans have done this, someone's done that. It's madness. But I don't know. Can I say it's enjoyable? I'm not sure, but yeah, it is. It's an experience. I think it's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, experience, all right. And the news broke like 24 hours ago. So your time, UK, what's about 10 p.m. there or something? Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously everyone knew from about 1 p.m. Because the newspapers broke the story. It was officially confirmed around 11 p.m. Our time. So I'd had a bit of a long weekend, and I thought I'll have an early night. I don't usually go to bed till 1, 2 a.m. and I thought I'll have an early night. Yeah, fucking no chance of that. I was on Twitter till about 2 o'clock.
Schwinn, you didn't care, mate, what you had to do, but you've moved mountains, buddy, and you're joining us here tonight. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of helped set up today's show, but just because there's just, again, as Tony said, there's so much going on. And I mean, to the keen eye, people will know I've been away from Twitter for more than a year at this point, and I'll check in for team news and transfer news every now and then. But today it's been mental. I've been on the app, I'm sure as have most football fans, for pretty much the whole day. And constant updates. If you fuck with lists on Twitter, today was a bad day, because you're constantly shuffling between tabs. I have 4 different lists going on where I get different sorts of news, Arsenal-related, football-related, just to sort of compartmentalize how I find information. Otherwise, Twitter can be really, really difficult to navigate. And it's been absolutely mental. The outrage, the meltdown, the reactions, so much noise, and to try and form your own opinion, especially when it's a bit contrarian like mine is, it's difficult, but it's also fun. I mean, I've been shuffling between WhatsApp, Telegram, which is where our chat is, Twitter, of course, also running frantic Google searches to try and understand what different rules are like that are being referenced all over the place. Yeah, but what a day to be alive. What a time to be alive. I'm quite excited for where this is going, if I'm perfectly honest.
It's crazy because, like, as you boys know, I'm not that active on Twitter, and I'm more a Facebook user with groups and things. But I'll be honest, the last 24 hours of Twitter has come alive. Like, I don't think it's been so good since Donald Trump left Twitter. So, but anyway, okay, let's break this down because what we know so far is obviously the announcement took place, as Tony said. Rumours were suggested about 1 p.m. yesterday UK time. Officially about 11 p.m. What we know is the league will include 12 of Europe's biggest teams: Manchester United, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Juventus, AC Milan and Inter Milan. Now, games be played midweek. Now, that's going to be like, this is where I'm at, Tony, a little bit with this, right? Because games are going to be played midweek. However, now UEFA's come out and said, and FIFA's come out and said players may be banned. So does that mean no weekend? Obviously, there's no competition for these teams in the Premier League as we know it now, because they'll be kicked out.
Yeah, so I think this is difficult to navigate through all the points with.
It is, yeah.
without sort of putting our cards on the table as to where we are with it. So I'm just gonna, before I answer what you've just asked, I'm gonna say I'm against it, but I'm nowhere near as against it as most people seem to be. I mean, going on Twitter, it looks like the example I used earlier is if it's between a 1 and 10, 1 is you're completely against it, it would turn you off football forever, and 10 is you're so for it, you're going to get it tattooed on your face. 5 being the middle ground. I'm a 3 or a 4. So I am against it, but I'm not as... I can see the merits of it, and I can see the big negatives of it. So everything... I'm going to sound really flip-floppy when I answer any question you ask me, because I'm going to go through the positives and negatives. And for me, and maybe it's me being ignorant, I feel that a lot of people have decided to just choose the positives and follow them, or just choose the negatives and follow them. So in answer to your question about it not being on the weekends, I don't think the actual plan from this Super League is a terrible idea. As you said, play in the European games midweek, play in your leagues on the weekends. It just replaces the Champions League.
That's right, yeah. Yep.
I'm going to dig more into that later, so before people start losing their heads at me. That is not a terrible idea. The moment the leagues got involved, La Liga, Serie A, Premier League, saying you're now going to be banned from your domestic league, now it's a shitstorm. Had this league stayed uninvolved and UEFA lost their heads, and because obviously then you're undermining the Champions League, I mean, I don't think anyone really would have cared, because no one really likes UEFA anyway. And we wouldn't be in all of this. I think the leagues getting involved has caused massive problems. And I don't see how the leagues can win, unfortunately, because the package just isn't as good. Look, I've said on here many a time, I'll watch a Premier League game over pretty much almost any game. But when the Premier League is West Brom versus, I've got Fulham, and then on the other channel there's Barcelona versus Real Madrid, I'm sorry, that West Brom and Fulham ain't going to win that battle. The interest in the Premier League would automatically go down without the big 6 teams in it. That you can argue about the 6 teams that were chosen, if they deserve it, and I include us in that. And I think that's maybe an argument for later in the pod. I was going to say another day, but I know we're going to cover it later. But yeah, I just think the mess, the large part of the mess is the leagues getting involved. The only, and I will just put this out there before people start firing shots at me, the only and the major part of the European Super League proposal I disagree with is having the 12 clubs grandfathered in. I don't think that's acceptable in any way. And what worries me or scares me is that you can be 5 games in, lose all 5 games, And then what's the point even trying? You're not going to go down. You're now not going to win it or qualify for the quarterfinals. And then, and even if they do allow domestic leagues, because I think the Premier League will back down, it's the same sort of thing. As long as you're not going to get relegated, what does it matter? Top four isn't a thing anymore, which I think is tragic. Like, imagine this season, Man City had the league wrapped up by December, really. What would we have been doing since December? There is, where I'm going to counter this point is, I say our team shouldn't be grandfathered in, but when was the last time Real Madrid or Barcelona didn't make the Champions League? When was the last time Juventus didn't make the Champions League, aside from when they got relegated for match fixing? When was the last time Bayern Munich didn't make the Champions League? So I know people are going to say, well, they could miss out, but the reality is teams are kind of grandfathered in anyway. And the same way in the Premier League, that's like, as I said, I'm looking at the list of clubs now just because I was watching Monday Night Football, and 10 of them clubs, and there's probably more, ain't going to go down. So are they not grandfathered into the Premier League? And as I said, I know the argument is, well, they could go down. But I mean, looking at Arsenal as an example, we've never been relegated. So are we not grandfathered into the top division? And as I said, I know people are going to say, well, they could, but there's, yes, they physically could, but being realistic, they can't. So, as I said, for me, there's a lot of positives and negatives, and I'm against it for the fundamental reason is that it kills competition. But I do think too many people are not looking at, are only looking at the negatives. But then that's my viewpoint, and I know Schwinn's is going to be wildly different, and yours is also going to be wildly different.
Okay, Schwinn. Well, let's go with yours.
All right, so I'll start with, as Tony mentioned, going on the spectrum, right? The 1:10. I'm probably an 8. So strongly in favor. I think that's predicated on two things. Number one, we're in it, right? If we weren't in it, I'd probably be a -8 and be, throwing all my toys out of the pram. So that definitely helps. Second, my argument is completely based on logic and no emotion. So my heart does go out to people who feel very connected to the club and have that sense of deep tradition, and it's been passed down the generations. I'm not one of those people. So if you someone who's grown up in a family that had the sense of your club being your community participation sort of aspect, I understand how this could be very, very bothersome for you. And actually, even a third, which is just seeing the outrage against this, because it's also reactionary, and I feel a lot of it is not being looked at objectively, and Twitter is anyways an echo chamber. So it just feels nice to rebel and to see how people react to it. And I've been called all sorts of names today, and I mean, I don't particularly care, but I formed my opinion based on what I saw. So I'm quite in favor of this. Now, there's two ways of looking at the whole debate, right? One is intrinsically, which is, what is the solution? Does it work? And I think Tony very eloquently laid out some of the problems with the competitiveness and even the 5 teams that will come in, even if one of them performs well, they are not guaranteed any position next year. And I think there are some intrinsic issues. And the second is, we look at it as to why this is coming. Why has this happened? Now, first of all, to me, this is no surprise. We've heard of Project Big Picture. There was a big expose on this, I think, a year or two ago, in the Times, when talks of this being at these advanced stages was put out and released to the public. Wenger's talked about it 10 years ago. He's talked about it 20 years ago. It's been in the making for a while. So the fact that people are surprised is surprising to me, because we've seen it coming. Add to that the incompetence of UEFA, FIFA, even some of the FAs that are involved, and we can get into the details. I'm surprised that people are surprised. For me, it's a simple thing. For me, football has become an investment vehicle the time we let all these billionaires into the club, the time we wanted to take the Premier League and the sport in general global. And now we're suffering or enjoying the ramifications of that. It's simple. Investment yields return. And in the wake of the pandemic, these returns have been completely squeezed and driven to debts, right? I mean, 7 billion debt for these top 6 clubs. 7 billion euros of debt for these top 6 clubs. How are they going to sustain it? At the end of the day, if these clubs suffer and they're unable to operate, arguably their respective leagues will suffer as well. So if you want to look at it from a trickle-down perspective, the sport is going to suffer. So I'm in favor of these teams breaking away because of the incompetence that we've seen from these governing bodies, and letting them have their day and to try something different. Change is hard. This is disruption. This is not just change. And I think just to be resilient in the face of change, I think is hard enough. And I think we need to do that. We need to see what might come of this. This is an experiment. We don't know how it's going to work. Yes, it's an American model, and you can call it a bastardization. But at the same time, if football is going to suffer, then why not try something else? Just because things have happened a certain way, does that mean we have to carry on? And football hasn't happened a certain way. There's been series of changes through the last 100 years. When the Premier League was formed, there was massive backlash. When the sport made the decision to move from amateur to professional, there was even bigger backlash. That sense of tradition that we banned about doesn't exist today. It's a myth. It's a simple vehicle for earning money, for generating revenue. And I feel for the fans who have that sense of nostalgia, but it doesn't exist anymore, guys. We live in a different world. The typical fan has changed. And I know, Taz, you're going to speak about what the sentiment is in Australia. I bet it's like that in a lot of other countries. And I bet these billionaires who want to protect their assets, grow their assets because it's in their self-interest, understand that. They understand data. They've seen how people interact with their clubs, the merchandise they buy, the hours they spend. They have data on all of this. They know they can do a better job than UEFA, all these broadcasters that are going absolutely apeshit when it comes to monetizing them and perhaps doing better with the money. They've promised 10 billion euros over the next 23 years. That's 6 billion more to the footballing pyramid. Who knows how that will impact the sport in the long run? There's a lot of questions out there right now, and I think to rush to judgment completely against it is completely misplaced in my mind.
We just lost a few listeners, but anyway, that's because. But that's
good riddance.
This is what it's about. It's about an opinion. So, listen, I am totally split on this, boys, and I'm not one to usually say on the fence, even though I've been on flip-flopping with Arteta all season. Look, for me, and I said it yesterday to a couple of mates, I feel the money has outgrown the game. So the minute you looked at PSG coming in and being owned by a country, the minute you stamped the Neymar transfer deal of 140 odd million pounds or whatever, the minute you let clubs spend the amount of money in wages, in transfer fees and everything, the money has outgrown the clubs. It's outgrown the game, unfortunately. I'm a little bit, I get both sides of the coin. I'm probably a 5. Am I for it? No. Am I against it? No. Like, you look at Barcelona, right? And I'm just going to go what's on what we read, boys, okay? Because we aren't at Barcelona, we aren't in the club. So Barcelona, according to reports, are on the brink of bankruptcy. They have outspent their budget. They have outspent their what they're bringing in. Now you want this Barcelona team to be a world club. You want this Barcelona team to sell jerseys all around the world. How many of you put your hands up who actually buy an official jersey, or do you buy it off an Asian market, and does that money go back to the club? So that's one revenue stream that's been, pulled back a bit. You've got memberships, you've got members, you want fans who just want to spend money. They want the $100 million pound player. They want that. You only have to look at Arsenal fans. Every transfer window.
Tez, can I just say one thing to add to your argument? Illegal streaming. And I'm not acting holier than now.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I just thought that was
absolutely, man. That's another one. And illegal streaming. So fans are fans, but they're quite happy to not put the money back to the club. But then when the clubs say, hey, guys, we're in trouble, we need more money, we need to find another revenue stream, they're the first fans to complain that, oh, you've jumped to a Super League, you're rich, you're greedy, you know, this, that. So I just want people just think about it a little bit beforehand and ask yourself, do you buy a jersey off the official store? Do you illegally stream? What money do you actually give to the club? I know a lot of people in the UK are obviously members. Here in Australia, we're obviously fans abroad, so we're not members. I buy all my stuff official off the official streams. You know, whether it be I pay the Optus Sports, I buy me jerseys off Arsenal.com or wherever it is to the stream goes back. That's what I can do from the club that I support, I guess. But those in Australia, they just like the idea of a competition. And I'm not talking for all Australians, but I've spoke to quite a few people who have said, "Fuck Super League, I don't really care. Like, if I get to watch the best of the best week in, week out, I'm happy." Like, at the end of the day, does it affect the people abroad? Not really. Does it affect the people close to the club in the UK? Absolutely. So that's where I'm just a little bit split, boys, because I do see both sides of the argument. Just looking through a few comments. The other thing is, I think it's a mess. And as you said, Tony, when the league got involved, it became a mess. But keep in mind, it's a mess that they all created themselves. So you know, I feel for even here in Australia, right? So there's a little startup company called Flick Sports in Sydney. They just paid $60 million for the Champions League rights and the European League rights. Europa League and Champions League. $60 million for 3 years. Now, I know that's not a lot of money in some cases. This is a startup sports company who have zero. I think they have a couple of, you know, Chinese league games and things like that. So they've just coughed up $60 million for these rights. And I think to myself, Optus Sports, they lost the rights. And I'm thinking, well, obviously somebody knew about the Super League before it was announced yesterday, because I couldn't work it out for the life of me why Optus Sports didn't go for the rights of the Champions League and Europa League. So things like that too, I tend to ask questions around. I feel sorry for people on the other side of the, you know, on the other side of the coin like that. I also feel sorry for the smaller clubs who are now sitting there who weren't invited, because let's face it, West Ham United, they're having the season of their life. But are they classed as a big club? No. Are they classed as a club to go into this Super League? No. It's so many questions to be asked, boys. Yeah.
I think one thing we've all got to look at, whether you're pro or against it, is this is all UEFA's doing, as you've alluded to, Tez, that they allowed the petrodollars or petro billionaires, the oligarchs, to come in and kill the game as it was. And Schwinn's perfectly right when he says this game is constantly changing. The football, and I'm not just saying this because Arsenal were good then, the football in 2003 and 2004 is a different sport to it is now, because Abramovich came in first and he was allowed to do it. Then Sheikh Mansour came in, and then other clubs have come in. And also, I mean, it's hypocritical from the Premier League, because at the request of the Big Six, they stopped Newcastle being taken over just a year ago. So it's like they helped to keep it a closed shop then, but they don't want it a closed shop when the money isn't suiting them. All UEFA, the Premier League, La Liga, etc., they've all been enablers, and they've been happy to look the other way while the money's going in their pocket. And this is what this is all about. And it's annoying me that it's becoming a fan versus money, or a business versus true fans thing. Even as someone who doesn't want it, don't get this twisted. This is a money versus money. The UEFA want the money, the Premier League want the money, and they can see that it's being taken from underneath them. And look, the Super League is a toned down version, shall we say, of the Champions League. less teams, similar amount of games. So if the Super League reckon they can pay everyone 500 million a year, at the moment the winners of the Champions League get 120 million pound. Where's the rest of the money going?
Well, that's what I mean. It's outgrown. Like, you imagine yourself for a minute, right? And you just imagine you're the boss of Arsenal. You got a decision to make. Okay, your decision is I've got to put bums on seats. So I've got to sell memberships. I've got to get a decent sponsorship. I've got to sell tickets. I've got to sell merchandise. Then I've got to put my, I'm just trying to talk about balancing the books. Then I've got to get a coach and then players and everything, and then work on finishing top 4 in the Premier League. So I get a cream on top. Then I'm in the Champions League and I get the cream, right? So all of a sudden, and I got no idea what these clubs make and stuff, right? But what I'm getting at is then on the other hand, you have a bloke who says, hey, we can give you 400 million. You only got to play each week in the middle of the week. And here you are, mate. There it is. Walk away.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not even looking at that. You've not said anything wrong, but a big question that no one's asking is, where is the money currently going? You get 120 million for winning the Champions League, whereas, as I said, these guys are coming in and saying you get 400 to 500 million just for taking part. You haven't sold a ticket yet, so then you get your shirt sales, your ticket money from obviously fans coming into the ground. So, okay, let's say they don't currently make enough to pay 500 million a club, because that's a bit far fetched. There's no way that UEFA are funneling money out of this competition like you wouldn't believe. No one's asked what's UEFA making, and that's why they're so against it. And the same with the Premier League. They know their competition gets devalued, and look, that's one of the biggest shames of it for me, because I'm a Premier League fan. And my biggest worry, which is something I haven't touched on yet, and it's something that is completely unacceptable and would happen, and it's probably what sways me to being against it, is that it basically does make things franchise. At some point, they'll get bored of having 3 clubs in London, 2 in Manchester. And look, I can say I'm Arsenal to every part of me is Arsenal. If we start playing home games in Beijing, okay, that's nothing against Beijing. If we start playing home games in Goa, in Dubai, and I'm talking competitive games because I couldn't care less about friendlies. When we start playing competitive games in them places, as a home game especially, I'm done, if I'm honest. And that is the scariest for, and the worry for me is that is inevitable. Because especially with these guys who want the American style league, where they bring a game like Tottenham hosts an NFL team. I think it's meant to be 4 times a year if it wasn't for the pandemic, because it's getting a global audience and it's bringing more money into the league. I don't support the league.
Maximize profit and bring money where they can. That's what they're doing.
And from a business point of view, look, we're all, you've ran a business, I've ran a business, Schwinn is very business minded. We all understand business, but again, I don't support the business. So the moment I can sit here now and say, it's not too bad. And the question's been popping around Twitter today. If Arsenal joined the Super League, would you still go to games? Fuck yes. 1,000,000% I would still go to every game the same as I do now. The moment that gets jeopardized with, you can't go to this huge game, the North London derby this week, because it's being played in Shanghai, go fuck yourself. And the fear is, not even the fear, I think it's almost guaranteed. It's gone beyond the worry for me, because, and maybe I'm looking to what might happen, but I can't see any way that it wouldn't happen. And then that's for me where the local support should be worried about. But it seems the local support are just out with the whole idea to begin with. And I think the actual idea in itself isn't a million miles away from what the Champions League currently is and plans to be. And the other thing I think the Super League done wrong is they wanted to be the first to announce, so they rushed their announcement. But if they would have gone after UEFA's plan's a joke, by the way. UEFA are getting away with the worst idea ever because the Super League went first.
Well, if they would have talk about that for a minute, Tony, because I'm not overly. I'm not 100% on what they want to change. I see the changes, but I haven't broke it down because I've been looking more at this Super League.
So instead of 32 teams, which it currently is, 8 groups of 4, they want it to go up to 36 teams in more of a league format. I can't remember the exact amount, but at the moment you play 6 games in the group. It's either going up to 8 or 10. I'm just getting confused because the Europa League is also changing to a similar format, and one of them you'll play 8 teams in a group, the other one you'll play 10. But so that the amount of games are going up. Also, them 4 extra spaces are reserved. I can't remember the exact wording they use, but it's basically reserved for big teams that don't qualify. Essentially, grandfathering teams in, because Atletico, Real Madrid, and Barcelona are going to qualify anyway. And then from the Premier League, there's only 4 spots. So of the big 6 we're now talking about, only 4 of them can get in. So the other 2 are just going to be grandfathered in by the stupid qualifying criteria anyway. So what's now the difference between the Super League and the new Champions League? And the only difference is the clubs in the Super League will earn a fuckload more money. As I said, I think the Super League fucked up by they tried to be clever in rushing their announcement and getting out first. But had they waited, I think they would have. I think most fans would have gone, yeah, all right. Like they'd still been protests, of course they would have been. But this UEFA thing has gone under the radar, and it's a joke because I don't think they were really planning to pay the clubs much more either. So you're almost doubling your amount of games, which is one of the protests against the Super League. There's too many games. You're grandfathering teams in anyway. The only thing they have still right is the likes of a West Ham or a Leicester or anyone. Southampton could still qualify if they come top 4. But I mean, their plan's a joke. But as I said, there's so many positive and negatives. But the one that sways me is that Arsenal playing home games in fuck knows where. And look, from their business point of view, let's be honest, if Arsenal were playing a competitive, imagine Arsenal Tottenham in Sydney, Tez, you'd be there in a heartbeat.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm not blaming you for that.
Yeah, you'd be spewing.
Yeah, but you and that's what they look. They want a global fan base. So you as an Arsenal fan, and you're not less of an Arsenal fan than me just because I go to games. I was lucky enough to be born within 3 miles of the stadium. That's luck. That's not. I'm not special. I didn't do anything. My dad banged my mum in the right place. Like it's not. But yeah, I would be dead against us playing home games in Sydney, whereas you'd be all for it. Like
yeah.
And that's where it all gets messy. But that's the point for me where even though, and look, I'm probably sitting here sounding really self-entitled, I'm going to sulk if Arsenal aren't in my city. And yeah, I probably sound like a bellend. I don't care. I will sulk if Arsenal are not in my city because for me, especially in football, the way football's always been, and one of the things that's never really changed is you have a home ground, you have a base. That is where your team plays and that is where they are from.
Well, you look at any sport, Tony, in any country, like you can talk the A-League, you can talk the baseball, the basketball in America. You all know where the home is, don't you? Like the minute it becomes franchised around the place, I don't.
That's the next thing. When do Manchester City not become Manchester City because they're playing all their games elsewhere or half their games elsewhere? When do they just become? I don't know, because in England, the names of the clubs are so intertwined with the place they're from, probably with the exception of Arsenal. Most clubs are named after a place. And Arsenal are to an extent, obviously, it's Woolwich Arsenal.
I see where you're coming from. However, there's one little crack in your argument on that, though. Not argument, but thoughts on that, is time zones and TV rights. Because obviously here in Australia, it's 8 a.m. or something? Nearly 8 a.m. In India, it's 3:30 a.m. and in the UK, it's about 11:30 or something. 11. So you know what I mean? Like it's the time zones and TV will hopefully squash them thoughts. I hope
it won't though, because I mean, look at the NFL when they bring it here, it kicks off at a time that's horrible for Americans. And look, boxing is my second sport after football. And when a fight goes to America, it's changing a little bit now, depending on the fight. But in general, they don't give a shit. It goes on at 5 a.m. because that suits the American audience.
America, it's during the day for me, 3 p.m. or something. Right?
Yeah. So, which I mean, okay, it's not the worst, but it's not the time where people watch sports. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
For me, that is probably going to underpin all my arguments, and I understand that probably makes me sound self-entitled. And I actually am quite interested to hear what Schwinn thinks of that because I've rambled on for about 20 minutes now. I'm not really said much.
Just before Schwinn does, I'll just go over because people have mentioned comments in the chat, so I'll just bring out a couple of them. Manchester Lions and Arsenal Guns is bullshit. Hamza says exactly my point. I try to explain this to people. This fan, the fans built the club in the community. You're removing it from them. So Jamie
Can I
says,
just 1 point? Sorry, I think it was Hamza just said that JP Morgan are financing it. As far as I'm aware, I might be wrong, but they've agreed to underpin it, so essentially insure it. I don't think they're planning to just pump money into it for no reason. They're investment bank. They're not going to, especially if they're not making a return. So I think, as I said, don't take this as gospel. But as far as I'm aware, the JP Morgan involvement is if it goes tits up, they guarantee the money.
Okay. Jamie said, to be honest, I'd be all for the Super League if it wasn't for the whole founding members get automatic. Yeah, look, that is very tough. Like, there's no, as you said, there's no relegation. But then where do they relegate to? Because it's two different governing bodies. So either they've got to start talking to each other, or this whole thing is just going to be, that's your comp, that's my comp.
Yeah, but it would be again, I'm defending something I don't believe in, but it would be just you don't compete in it the next year. So the relegation would be you go back to your domestic league and try and qualify again next year, which is, as I said, what it probably should be. But I said that maybe I'm using a bad example, but the Champions League are trying to do exactly the same thing with having 4 grandfather spots or coefficient spots, whatever they want to fucking call it. It's the same thing. 4 teams get in who don't deserve to, who haven't qualified to be there. And the thinking behind that from UEFA is, well, that's the way to get the big clubs in that don't qualify. So do Italy still only get 3 Champions League spots? So you looking at the last few years, it's been Napoli, Juventus, and in Roma in there a little bit. But with one of these grandfather spots, okay, AC Milan would get in because they're a huge institution. The same in the Premier League. You're going to have 4 teams qualify, and at least 2 big clubs miss out. Well, there's your grandfather spots. The grandfather spots aren't going to go to Celtic or Slavia Prague or Steaua Bucharest.
Yeah, that's right. They get ruling all them out because, and this comes back to how many people are going to really watch, apart from Arsenal fans, are going to watch Arsenal versus Slavia, Arsenal versus Celtic. You know, it's only them 2 fans. So I just think they're trying. Look, it's very hard because I'm defending something that I don't really know much about either. And am I for it? I still don't know. Like, you know what I mean? This is what I mean. But as you pointed out earlier, Tony, you know, West Ham v, you know, fucking Sheffield United are playing, or on the other channel it's Barcelona v Real Madrid. Like, which one are you going to watch? Let's put it this way. There's a reason the Champions League and the Premier League never clash. And everyone's free to make their mind up on why that is. I know my version of the story. Robert says he can honestly, you know, he's a Man United supporter. He's also, I think he's the host or a panelist on a podcast called The Football Thing, an Australian podcast. Shout out, Robert. But he supports Manchester United. He watches Optus Sports. He pays for everything. So he's one of the few. But as I said earlier, there's so many people like I see who, where can I get a jersey from? How can I live stream? You know, how can I stream this, illegally stream and things like that? Like, I know you feel that you're not going to make much of a difference, but at the end of the day, it's revenue out of your club. Schwinn?
There's a lot to touch upon what's just been said. Look, first of all, again, coming back to the motivation behind this whole new movement. You know, I was listening to Ornstein and Chapman earlier today, and they had something interesting to share that up until 2018, the 3-year rolling average for viewership for the Champions League has actually dropped by 35%, from 2 billion to 1.3 billion. Right now, if you're an owner of a big club or one of the signatories of one of these 12 clubs, you're not happy about that at all. You know, you've invested so much money into your club, whether it's the money that the club has made or you've put in your own money, only to see UEFA completely mismanage it because they're corrupt and they're completely incompetent. They're unable to enforce rules that they create themselves, for example, FFP. They're unable to control any of these big clubs at all. As Tony mentioned, the FA is complicit in this. See the Newcastle potential takeover that was squashed, right? Who are these guys to give us a lecture on moralistic high ground or virtue signaling? Charging people 15 quid, people that have built clubs in the UK? If it's not a myth, what is it? Right? People are being furloughed, people are being let go. It's a global meltdown amidst a pandemic, and they're charging people 15 quid to watch two Premier League teams battle it out. Where is the legacy? Where is the tradition? It doesn't exist, guys. I appreciate what people have done, the hours, the blood, sweat, and tears, the memories that people share. Whether you live 1 minute away from the club or a flight away from the club, I appreciate that. But it's not reality anymore. It's being taken away from us. It's been taken away from you guys who live in the UK and who've spent so much time and effort into their clubs. It doesn't exist. As an investor, as an owner, you are looking at this and you see there's something wrong. FIFA's no great either. The last World Cup happened in Russia. The next one's happening in Qatar in the winter, under sweltering heat. These tournaments, the World Cup, the Champions League, are getting diluted by more teams being added. How is it going to help these big teams in recuperating their investment? Now, look, if your argument is that you shouldn't get into sport for investment, I understand that. I even agree to it. But that's not the reality of the situation. We don't exist in that world. It's the unfortunate reality. We got into bed with these guys, as you said, Tess, as Tony mentioned, Sheikh Mansour. The only reason PSG is against it is because they had rights to Champions League broadcast in the Middle East with beIN. That's why Khalifi's against it, because he's got a lot to lose by basically bombing the Champions League if he signs on to this.
Well, where's this money all going? And Tony made a great point earlier, Schwinn, is where is this money going? Like Hamza, he's talking about the rights from Sky Sports, the split platform caused the drop in viewership. And he says the better those viewers, most of those viewers were obviously watching illegal streams. But like this is the stupidity of it. Like if you have a product, you need to govern that product and make sure this shit doesn't happen. Like make sure the prices don't go up and BT Sports don't jack it up to, well, I don't even know what was something
they don't
ridiculous.
Care. They don't care about the fans.
As long as they're getting money
having a
in
final
their pocket.
in Baku when Arsenal and Chelsea are playing tells you all you need to know. And the fans, the local fans, the teams have been allocated. Sorry, the Arsenal and Chelsea traveling fans have been allocated minimal seats, the worst seats in the stadium. There's no readiness. It's almost as if they didn't want those fans there. Right? So what is it? It's a dry run. I mean, I remember being at the Champions League final when we played in 2006, and it seemed like a corporate event. So even back then it was not any different. So why are we expecting those differences now? I mean, we don't live in that world anymore.
What did they do? Like, and I'm not sure, but I know the banks propped Arsenal or Tottenham and that up in COVID situation. There was no crowds in the place. But did the UEFA, FIFA, the FA, did they give any think or say, oh, well, we can, everyone's doing it tough through COVID. You got no crowds. There was no rescue packages or anything, was there? Like,
I know
with anything apart from the government.
I know this is mainly when Schwinn should be talking, but obviously being in the UK, I just want to quickly jump in on this and then I'll shut up and let Schwinn go. The leagues and whatnot done nothing. Sky Sports actually tried to sue the league because the season was been delayed and they lost a load of viewers and they couldn't charge subscription. The same with BT. I think they did getting some money back. And the other thing, just to add on that, is there's now the talk of the football pyramid is going to suffer. But 2 months ago, when the National League thought they weren't going to be able to play their games because there was no crowd, the advice from the government, from the FA, from the Premier League was essentially fold, like stop existing. We've had no football below a certain stage for bordering on a year, apart from a few months, because they didn't get the support. And look, to play devil's advocate on it, where does the support come from? Who pays the money out? That's. I'm not going to try and answer that question, but the pyramid, which I love so much, and I have friends that play in it, and I've grown up with it, it has not been catered for anyway. I was speaking to a friend earlier who's basically fallen out of love with football anyway, nothing to do with the Super League, and I was trying to speak to him about it because he was a huge football fan, and he said, well, everyone's going on about grassroots. He said, I've never seen, and he played in the same teams as me, and he said, I've never seen a penny of money. What are they talking about grassroots? Where's this money going? Because the lower leagues are all suffering. The kids in the street are still playing with jumpers for goalposts and a ball that's 10 years old with all the panels missing. All of the big players now are coming from inner cities where we basically play in concrete cages. And the reason the ball control a lot of these youngsters, like your Sanchos, like your Sterlings, is so good because they're playing in these five-a-side cages against other kids who, frankly, are trying to get you out by any means necessary, be it that kick you up in the air and whatever else. Like there is no support, and that's one of the things that seems to be like we should stay to support the lower league, and it's like, well, we haven't been doing that anyway. But yeah. Sorry, the UK has 24 levels, yeah.
Yeah, 24 levels. So is the money, you're saying the money doesn't even dwindle down? What past?
I mean, I've played between, I think, 10 and 16 off the top of my head. It might be give or take a few either way. And I'm not saying that I deserved or my club deserved anything. I'm far from it. But where we didn't see a thing. So the UK has 24 levels, but they're not funded by anyone. They're funded by the teams. And when you're in them leagues, especially lower down, you can play in a League One season. This genuinely happened to one of the teams I played in. We played in the league. I think it was our first season, but we had quite a good infrastructure. We came mid-table because our infrastructure was so good and so many clubs folded because they couldn't afford to be in the leagues anymore. We got offered 4 promotions.
Wow.
So Hamza is perfectly right in saying the UK has, if it is 24, it's 24 because it differs by area, obviously, the amount of teams in that area. But they're not fucking helped at all by the pyramid. They're part of the pyramid. They ain't helped by it.
Yeah, it doesn't help by it. Yeah. And this is the major question, Schwinn, and I'll go back to you now, but where is the money going? Like we're all quick to blow up, and this is why I'm so split. We're all quick to blow up, and where's the tradition? The history's gone. This is gone. That's gone. Where's the fucking money going?
Well, that's the $1 million question. It was the billions of dollars of question. That one. I mean, Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini were in the driver's seat for a very long time, and there's lots of brilliant journalistic work that's been done on this that people can have a look through. Der Spiegel, of course, released a 4-part series on this a few years ago that was very eye-opening, and they did a whole expose on Man City and how they're using Icelandic ventures to wash money, to pay salaries. I know for a fact that intelligence agencies are monitoring how money moves through these because they believe there's a lot of money laundering going on through them because football is basically not monitored or regulated in the way it should be, considering the volume and the amounts of cash moving through it. But I mean, Tony hit the nail on the head, at the top of the show when he said it's a money versus money thing, and that's basically why we're seeing this sort of, lambasting retaliation from UEFA, from the FA, from broadcasters, because they have everything to lose from this. They have given so much power while lining their pockets with cash over the last 20, 30 years to these big clubs. And they have played a direct role in creating this small group of really powerful players in an industry where they have now lost all sort of control, all sorts of positioning to act as the guardians of the game. Everyone knows what they're up to. We don't need to look far. Russia, Qatar, Baku. We don't need to we look at the prices for games for broadcasting. So you don't need to look very far or very deep to see evidence for that, right? Sepp Blatter gets implicated. What does he have to do? Not a whole lot. Man's got the watch collection better than most business people and the billionaires of the world. Where does that come from? Where does that shit come from? And that's just one of the small things, which I'm sure, which is a part of a very elaborate portfolio that is being moved through offshore accounts and Swiss bank accounts. This is a money versus money issue. And now these 12 signatories have realized that the real power of the game, the real money of the game, comes from the global fan base. Fan bases that have not yet been tapped into, right? If we are able to stream games directly to people who want to watch football, and we charge them £1 for one game. I mean, a brand like Man United could easily make 100 million of just one game, theoretically speaking. And they're having to deal with these bureaucracies, these redundant and old dinosaurs who are sitting on cash, which we don't know where it is. It's for all we know is being used for all sorts of illicit activities or not, but it's not going where it's supposed to be going. Right? I saw another comment from Hamza that no money is going anywhere and it's simply profit motive. I did see that Sky report that some executive, some CEO or owner said that we are in this for the money and our first goal is the profit and the second is the well-being of the sport. And I concede that point. But they have made a claim that they'll give away 10 billion. Now, if that's going to come to fruition or not, I don't know. How they're going to enforce that, I don't know. What sort of checks and balances they're going to have, I don't know. But that's 6 billion more. On paper, that's 6 billion more than what so far allegedly trickles down. I believe a lot more in private enterprise taking care of this shit because I know when private enterprise is going to be moving money like this, a lot more watchdog groups are going to be activated and they'll be a lot more resilient because people hate rich people. It's the reality of the world we live in. And I think at that point, you want to see watchdogs and you want to see checks and balances being enforced. But do I believe UEFA are capable or clean enough to do that? Absolutely not. I do not. Do I believe FIFA can? No, I do not. Even the FAs are complicit. We all know that. So what's the harm in trying something new? I mean, my only suggestion is to keep an open mind. It seems like this is going to go through. I mean, the clubs are quite intended on starting this August. To give this a go, I don't think is a bad idea. And to see the retaliation we have so far in less than 48 hours tells you all you need to know about how this is going to hurt them where it hurts the most. And I love every second for it. I got all the fucking time in the world for it.
Well,
sorry, Tez, can I just ask him a question? I'm assuming that you don't care about games being played everywhere and anywhere.
Look, I don't think that's going to happen. Look, I think the threats that have been made from UEFA, from the domestic FAs, I think are empty, and they're going to be just hitting themselves again on the foot by doing that. If that is the case, then having midweek fixtures across the globe just isn't sustainable. You could argue that these teams would have enormous squads of 24, 26 players, world-class players, and they could easily divide them up for the domestic competition and for the Super League. Would that happen? It could possibly happen, but I don't see it happening in the short term. I think the short-term goal is to maximize revenue, which will be through broadcasting, at least in my opinion, and of course through the payments they promised by signing up for this league.
So you don't think they'll take games on tour? Because
not in the short term.
I don't think they will. No,
not in the short term.
If you'd have asked me to put a percentage on how sure I am that would happen, maybe not in the first year, but definitely within the first 5, I would have gone high 90s, if I'm honest.
I think the mid to senior term strategy is going to be very interesting because if they are indeed going to Americanize this model, then they're probably going to end up making conferences. Much like groups, they're going to have conferences where they're going to try and categorize
Oceania
teams.
or Asia, whatever, America.
Precisely, and have them move around a bit while maintaining the sanctity of maybe one game at home, which is, again, I know still a big fault, right? If you move down to one game at home in your parents' city. But I think the long-term strategy would be to take over the weekends. Make the weekends redundant, and that's where I think the problem comes in, when they start to decimate the domestic leagues completely, maybe increase the size of the Super League, take over the weekends, because that's where the money's at, not in the midweek fixtures. Maybe increase the size of the league.
You've got another problem
40.
here, Schwinn. I think you've got another problem here, and just listening to you guys talk. At the moment, we play in the Premier League and all games a season, around 50 games a season a player plays, and that's not even talking if it's a World Cup year and things, is it? About 50 or something, isn't it? If you win every game.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, where's this going to sit with the player? Like, has anyone thought of I wonder what the players are thinking. Are they like, oh shit, are we still around 50 or what?
Yeah, but can I just argue this point very quickly? The Champions League was planning to increase its games anyway. So there is a lot of people that come with that argument, oh, it's going to be too many games. But that is going to happen regardless. Whether there's a breakaway or not, the teams that are in the Champions League or Super League, whatever the name is going to be, are going to be playing more games. So do I agree with that? No, absolutely not. They're playing too many games. But that's going to be the reality, whether the Super League exists or not. And even if this whole Super League thing hadn't come about, still more games were going to be played. As I said, they're increasing the size of the Europa League. They're increasing the size of the Champions League. They're making a European Conference League. So now even more teams are playing in Europe. So instead of now it only being the top 4 who are going to play in 6 group games and then whatever they get past, it will now be, as I said, 8 or 10 group games, 8 or 10 group games for the teams between 5th and 7th in the Europa League, and then the same amount of games for teams between like 8th and 9th. So the game load is going to go up regardless. And this isn't me making a positive for the Super League. I'm just saying it isn't a negative that people are trying to find it out to be, because that is the reality regardless.
If these clubs, if they're banned, though, from their respective leagues, in the domestic leagues, this is going to be a problem, because 400 million is not enough money for them. Like, if they're banned, so if they're banned from the weekend comps, and if they're going, well, you know, you aren't playing in it, tough luck, you go and run your Super League. Is that enough for these clubs?
Well, I mean, look, Tez, there's a few things. One, that's a base amount. That's just for entering. So they've not sold a ticket, they've not sold a shirt yet, they've not got any sponsors yet. Also, if they were all completely banned from their weekend league, the Super League wouldn't now be 12 teams playing however many games a season, 15, 20. It would become a full league. So then they'd get more money because the amount of games is going up.
The value of the Super League goes up as well, because that's the only place where you can watch these teams, which is the lion's share of viewership. That's what attracts viewers.
Yeah.
That is the end.
What's our worst case scenario?
No, that is 100% their end goal, and they're trying to sneak it in, which is another thing I don't really like. Their end goal is to have a permanent league as a European Super League. I actually didn't know this. I was listening to the radio earlier on the way to boxing. They were saying that a few of the lesser leagues actually tried it before to make them more competitive. So Holland, Scotland, Portugal, Sweden, and there was one other I can't remember. So it was like Ajax, Feyenoord, Celtic, Rangers, Porto, Lisbon, Benfica. Instead, they wanted to fuck off their own leagues and go into would have been called the Atlantic League, so that their quality rises by one, their viewership obviously rises, but also their quality rises because they're getting good level competition every week, rather than Celtic playing full Kirk 4 times a season. So I mean, it's something that's been looked at before, even a slightly lower level.
Go on, Schwinn.
I think, I mean, coming back to the threats, right? I mean, let's take the English FA, for example. For them to boot these teams out of the league would be self-destruction. I mean, who's going to watch that? Globally speaking, right? That's where the money comes from, right? The lion's share of money comes from broadcasting, and I know Sky is the biggest one. But apart from that, who's going to pay to watch these teams? There's going to be some money coming in, but it's not going to sustain them. For FIFA to ban teams from internationals or the World Cup, for UEFA to do that from European internationals, who's going to watch that stuff? Who's going to pay for the sponsors? Who's going to pay for the ads? No one's going to bring in commercial revenue. So that's self-destruction. And the Super League doesn't actually get impacted by that. If anything, it strengthens their stock and their position in the market, because that's the only place where you can watch these superstars.
It's
I'm glad Schwinn said it, because I was going to say it. They're making it sound like it isn't, but it has to be an empty threat, because I think without the Big Six, the Premier League goes bankrupt overnight, because BT and Sky Sports pull all of their funding and even sue for refunds, because they're sponsored for or got broadcast rights for a level of competition that is no longer there. The same as the sponsors. You think Barclays want to be, I think it's still the Barclays Premier League. You think they want to be associated with, or in the same tune with a league that no longer has the Big Six in it, and there's millions of other sponsors, and even going further down than that, Sky Sports, their timekeeping on their program is sponsored by Hublot, I think, or that's one of the stations is sponsored by Hublot. Again, are they going to do that with the Big Six not involved when there's another premium competition? Of course they're not. So, I mean, I hope it's an empty threat, because otherwise football does die, and it really does die. But it's on their own doing, and as Schwinn said, with the Euros and the World Cup. I mean, imagine this came in immediately, and they banned the players. Look at this summer's Euros. France, just off the top of my head, you take out Lloris, about 3 different Mendy's, Umtiti, Varane, Pogba, Kante, Griezmann, Dembele.
Giroud.
I was just going to say, you might not rate Giroud, but he starts for them.
As it stands, if this was to become a weekend tournament, I'll give you a rundown quickly, right? So in Germany, you got Bayer, how do you say, Leipzig? Schwinn?
Yeah,
Leipzig. Leipzig.
Anything what I said.
Frankfurt. You've got Leicester, West Ham, Everton, Leeds. Sevilla, Villarreal, Betis, Sociedad. And in Italy is Atalanta, Napoli, Lazio, Roma, and then Lille, PSG, Monaco. So that's it's still not a bad league.
It's Europa League. It's basically the Europa League, isn't it?
Well,
except just teams playing within their own countries.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is,
downfall.
Would people be more attracted to that? Because, if you've got Leicester v West Ham, or West Ham versus Everton, Leeds for, you know what I mean? Like, the games are now going to be pretty appealing.
Look, inherently, from a sporting perspective, they actually might be good games. I mean, when West Ham play Leicester, given their current form, it's a good fucking game of football, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't bring in revenue. It doesn't bring in viewers, right? And you need that money to broadcast the sport all over the world, to finance the sport. And
in all honesty, I'm not going to pay $15 extra a month to watch them teams, I guess.
Exactly. And the lion's share of the revenue is brought in by these big clubs. And these big clubs, most of them, have been made big by these fuckers. They're the ones who should be put to the guillotine, not the big owners who walked in, who were allowed to pump in cash incessantly. And they were, I'm sure, very clear that at some point we need return, because we're investors. We don't run, football franchises and other sporting companies all over the world just because we love sport. Nah. If you guys remember, I wrote that KSC article, right, when they completed the takeover. I mean, I tend to now think whether these plans were probably being already discussed, if not in a few more advanced stages than that, when that happened.
Well, we haven't even, and we haven't even touched on where does this season, what has happened in this season? Is it just now, does all this season kind of, because I'll be honest, this is a season that I'd hate to be a betting man on, especially in the Premier League. Like West Ham, when was the last time we seen West Ham so high? Leicester City, okay, they won the league, but they're still floating high. Like Man United, they're there by pure luck. No disrespect to Man United fans, but come on. Like City are running away with it. Tottenham and Arsenal, it's our worst seasons ever. I don't know about ever, but long time. You know what I mean? Like, we're not even thereabouts. But so where's this season? Like, have these clubs all of a sudden, have they gone, well, things are going to change? Like, I don't want to cast aspersions, but things
there's a few points that kind of come into that. I mean, I don't not I don't care about the season so far. Of course I do, but where this season goes from now is fucking interesting, because if the teams can't qualify for anything, if the big six are going to be expulsed from every competition, which is now the threat, then are Leeds, who are in 10th, still playing for a top 4 spot because 6 clubs above them are going to be kicked out? Like, who knows? What's the motivation for the rest of these games? Forget the betting we've seen so far. The betting going forward is going to be madness. And then the other thing is, and it's one that I don't want to call them small clubs because that's disrespectful, but the non-big big 6 clubs, I keep seeing their fans go, we're being robbed of the chance to get in the Champions League and go to the Nou Camp or the Bernabeu or the San Siro. And I'm like, well, for years you've hammered teams like Arsenal, saying, what's the point being in the Champions League if you're not going to win it? Now you're saying, we want the chance to do that. So, I mean, one, football's got exactly what it's asked for, that if teams aren't going to win it, then fuck them off anyway. And two, they don't want these big clubs to earn extra money, but also their dream is to go and play there. Barcelona don't dream of going to St Mary's or the London Stadium or Turf Moor. Barcelona don't know Turf Moor exists. Burnley dream of going to Barcelona, but they also don't want Barcelona for getting extra money, even though that's their aspiration. It's like, I don't really understand what some clubs want, to be honest. Like, they want the chance to go and play them. I fully understand that. But your heroes or your aspirations are always going to be bigger than you. Like,
look, and
I gotta say, I feel for Everton because they're building this massive new stadium, which apparently costs 500 million quid. And at least they've shown some ambition. And I mean, it's only going to come by them in the ass if this thing reaches fruition. But Tony's exactly spot on. It's just a natural hierarchy of competition that if either you want to beat the best or you want to be the best and you want to join the best. But no one wants to take a step down, not willingly at least.
You feel for Everton, and I get where you're coming from, but we haven't discussed that 5 positions are open for other teams to come in. But then they go out as well, which I think sucks. I honestly do. Like, if Arsenal are having a shit couple of years, well, hey, why should we be there? And this is the argument Tony said earlier. I disagree with it. Like, if you're going to have this so-called, bee's knees of leagues and the best of the best, well, Leicester and West Ham, they deserve
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, and it's because, and it's so ironic, all the Leeds players today in the warm-up basically broadcasted why. Because they said on the front of their shirts, earn it. And you know what? Our clubs have, in a way, earned it. And I don't want to sound entitled, but our clubs have built the brand. Right? These 12 clubs are not selected on some arbitrary measure. They're selected because they're top brands and they attract eyes. And I'm not trying to act self-righteous, but it's the truth.
Where's Ajax sit?
They're not the brand. They won't attract that viewership that even a Tottenham would.
Can I just to kind of half settle the argument between you two? 11 of the 12 are in the top 12 on Deloitte's, or top 13 on Deloitte's rich list, with Bayern and PSG being in there. And then the anomaly is AC Milan, who are 30th on the rich list. Or they're not, give or take, their numbers are right. 11 are definitely in the top 15, and then AC Milan are the anomaly being 30th. So Ajax
have done nothing in the last decade.
Yeah, but as Schwinn's saying, the teams are being entered on their brand and their wealth, not particularly their football, which again doesn't sit right with me and doesn't sit right with many people.
No, not me either. Yeah.
But that's what they're being chosen.
They also signify leverage. So if these clubs are valued in the billions of dollars or pounds, and JP Morgan Chase or any of these investment firms are going to partake in this and going to underwrite and sponsor this, then they need to have some leverage. And they need to make sure that if this league goes bust, then they have some sort of stake to come out of it.
I've seen this argument come up, and someone says, Ryan, he says Nottingham Forest because they've won the Champions League. Look, for me, come on, let's be real. But I will add Aston Villa.
But
Like, they're a big club, aren't they?
Like, yeah, but the point's being missed. And I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm stating the facts. This is not chosen on football merit. It's chosen on financial merit. As I said, that you look at this, and it is essentially the Deloitte rich list with Bayern, who have allegedly refused, but a lot of the rumours are they haven't. PSG, who have refused, but they will undoubtedly join it if it happens. They've already announced there's 12 in, but there's going to be 15 grandfather clubs. They know who them other three are. I don't, and I'm not saying anyone else does, but I would bet a lot of fucking money that PSG are one of them.
Oh yeah, please, definitely.
JP is otherwise not signing on to that shit.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, people going on about sport on previous histories and Tottenham haven't won this, and Arsenal haven't won the Champions League, and Villa and Forest and
That's
Celtic
a massive brand.
They're all right, but that is not what it's being picked on. And again, I'm not saying it's right, but that is what it's being chosen.
I get it, because if I go to Rebel Sports today, I'm lucky to find a Leicester City or a West Ham jersey to buy, but I'll see a Man U, Liverpool, Chelsea, and Arsenal. So I quickly, get
it goes with Schwinn's point that earn it. They, in a marketing sense, they have earned it. Maybe not on the football pitch, because as I said, if you're looking at the 12 best teams in Europe, we're not in it at the moment, and Tottenham aren't in it at the moment. AC Milan aren't in it at the moment. Inter Milan 2 years ago wouldn't have been in it. Now maybe even not still in it, but there's an argument. I mean, you look at Inter Milan; they go out of the group of the Champions League this year. They came third in Europa League group in the Champions League group last year and went into Europa League and didn't win that. You look at United; they're in the Europa League semi-finals with us having dropped out of the Champions League. They dropped out of the Champions League last year and didn't win the Europa League, lost in the semi. So there's arguments about a lot of the clubs in there. And they're very fair arguments. My point, not even my point. The facts are it's not being chosen on pitch performance.
I haven't really been following, because I've been more following the Arsenal stuff. But I wonder, Roma, they're obviously not in it, but I will double check later to see did they get an invite, or are they just not classed as a big club? Because
off the top of my head. The only teams that have come out and said they've rejected the invite, off the top of my head, and I might be wrong, are Dortmund, Bayern, and Porto.
And Sevilla as well, I think.
I don't know. I saw Sevilla moaning about it, saying we would never join, but I think I didn't see that they've been invited. They were just saying that they would never join. Again, maybe I'm
pulling a Cambridge United, are they?
Well, again, yeah, that's what it came across to me, but maybe I read it wrong.
So I have the list pulled up, and I'll skip the first 10 because they're pretty much as you'd expect. In 11th place, you have Arsenal. 12th is Dortmund. 13th is Atletico. 14th is Inter. 15th is Zenit St. Petersburg, where we all know why that is the case. 16th is Schalke. 17th is Everton. 19th is Lyon. 18th is Lyon. 19th is Napoli. And 20th is Eintracht Frankfurt. So no Roma test in the top 20 at least. And I'll quickly just add, Fabrizio Romano has been tweeting quotes from Florentino Perez over the last 5-6 minutes. And Papa Perez says the possibility of clubs being suspended from the Champions League or Europa League this season, impossible. I can assure that, 100%.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he's not holding back, and none of these owners are. They know the leverage they have. They know the power they possess. They know the power they've been bestowed upon by these fucking idiots who have dug their own graves. And I just hope that they have not dug the graves of our sport, because there's billions of people all over this world who love it. While I think most of us agree that UEFA, FIFA are not the custodians. I'm not also sure whether the self-interest of these oligarchs will be the right way to go, but it's definitely the better way to go for now. And then let's hope the watchdog groups and the independent regulators do their fucking job once they're waltzed out of the room as decision makers.
Well, the thing that people I think that have to look at is, okay, people are very quick to say, I'm dumping the team, I'm not going to games. And I understand your reasons. I'm not arguing that. But think of it as that club or your team or whatever it is, they need the money, guys. So I go back to buy a jersey from the fucking team. Do not do your illegal streams, because these clubs, and you could say they're greedy or whatnot, but they have. You could probably look at the money's outgrown the club.
Well,
and the sport.
it's the fans that are calling for the transfers a lot of the time as well, or paying the money. Like, I'll pay Aubameyang whatever he wants. 2 months later, Aubameyang's a cunt. Blah, blah, and we're not spending money to watch Aubameyang, and it's like,
exactly.
Look, I'm a hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite, so I'm part of that. But I also understand that.
It's crazy that, like, I don't believe Barcelona are going broke, right? But I'm just going to use them as an example because that's what we hear and that's the report. But I would hate to see their wage bill. Like, absolutely hate to think their wages and their expenditures compared to what the income is. You know, like, if you're going to spend, look, and I'm in security, right? So I always say to my clients, don't overspend what the asset's worth. And that's what's happening now, is the asset, the prize money is not worth what these clubs are spending. And how does the sport grow globally? Because I think it's bursting at its seams now. It's at its peak.
The answer is by being a brand, which is what this new league is based on. As I said, they've gone down the Deloitte rich list and picked teams based on that. So as you said, that Barcelona could potentially win everything and not recover the money from the competition payment, but because it will sell more shirts, they'll get more TV rights, and et cetera, et cetera. It's the brand in modern day football that sells, and that's why players are brands. Cristiano Ronaldo is not, like, back in the day, even going back to, say, Thierry Henry, I don't think he was a brand. Maybe he was one of the first ones with Vavavoom. David Beckham was probably the first football player.
Probably,
That I can think of off the top of my head. Beckham was the first footballer that was a brand, but it was extremely rare. Like, the fact we're even debating, was Henry a brand? Now, nothing against Patrick Bamford, he's just on my TV.
Yep.
He's probably a brand. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's a fucking brand now. So that's where the money is in football, and that's what everyone is striving for. I mean, and this goes at all levels. I know that there was a thing going around before how Stevenage Town, who Ted probably hasn't even heard of, Schwinn maybe hasn't either, have got a huge following now because they've done a deal with FIFA and Burger King, where I don't know the full details. I was reading the article and it was kind of above my head, but it was all about branding. Like, and that's just that's where football is. To kind of move this along a bit, I just want your thoughts. So usually with disagreements, one team goes far left, the other team goes far right, and they meet somewhere in the middle. It might not be 50-50, it might not be 70-30, it might be 90-10. Where do you see this ending up? Because I don't think it's going to go away. I'll answer first if anyone wants, so it gives you time to think. I think the teams do stay in their leagues. I think the leagues back down. I think the Super League pretty much gets its way apart, everything apart from that. I think possibly they may try and do they'll bring in a relegation, but the teams are set for, say, the first 3 years. And what they'll hope by that time, they've accumulated so much money in them 3 years that they'll be untouchable. That is about as close to even as I can see it going, because the Super League doesn't need the other side. The other side needs them. I don't know. You guys may think I'm way off and things are going to stay exactly as they are now, and nothing will change. I want to know what people, and obviously people typing in with comments, I want to know their answers as well. How does this end? What's the resolution?
I'll go before you, Schwinn. I think the Super League will get its way. Okay, I think next August. Look, clubs officially do not announce, and then I can't see them retracting now. Okay, the mess that it's in, they have to go with it. And I said to you boys, I was kind of waiting another 24 hours to see if before we recorded this to see if anything was going to be, media. They were going to do a press conference or somebody was going to speak up. I don't think that will happen just yet. So maybe when we do a podcast Wednesday, it might. But I think the Super League goes ahead, right? They start in August. I feel as though the two will have to talk and discuss. I think, Tony, you've hit the nail on the head. The Super League does not need UEFA at all. UEFA they're in a massive hole, I think, here, because they've still got to sell a product. And I'll go back to when I first spoke. People like Flick Sports, who just paid $60 million for the rights next season. What does that product become to them now? And what do UEFA do regarding that? Do they go, well, we haven't really got a brand? The other thing is the FA Cup. Does the FA Cup continue, or does the FA and UEFA, do they speak and say, well, let's just have Europa League and Champions League? It's a fucking mess, boys.
The FA Cup will always exist. The League Cup might go, but the FA Cup has to stay because it gives teams lower down that have no chance. Just looking through again, I'm giving Schwinn time to think as well. Just looking through the questions. Ryan Cost asked, do the teams get to participate in their domestic leagues? In what I'm thinking how it will end, yes. In the Super League's original plan, yes. The Premier League is saying no. So obviously there's some discussions to be had there. Nayslayer has actually come up with a great solution, if you ask me, that the Super League goes on and the Champions League gets promoted into it as a compromise. So then your West Hams and your Leicesters will go into the Champions League, and whoever wins that, or maybe even the last four, get them 5 spots, whatever it is. The only issue with that is it means UEFA working with someone else and playing second fiddle to someone else, because that would mean UEFA admitting that the Super League is above them. So although I think the idea is fantastic and it's not something I'd thought of, I can't see UEFA agreeing to be anyone's bitch.
Yeah, look, I think they've got to talk, right? They've got to talk, and they've got to not approve, but they've got to accept that this is happening with or without them. So I think the threats of bans and that, they're just going to be empty threats. They will back down from that because they need them more than, you know what I mean? They need them teams to sell their product. So they're not gonna. It's not gonna happen. Like imagine the Premier League next year without these teams. Who's gonna watch the fucking thing? Who's gonna pay it? You're devaluing your own product because you're cutting your nose off to spite your own face. So, what it does the Champions League and Europa League, that's probably where it'll get messy. But yeah, I still think this Super League goes ahead. They don't announce for no reason. Schwinn?
Yeah, I agree. Look, you don't need to look further enough than the reactions and some of the statements that have been put out, right? I mean, Seferin stepped onto the podium today and made all sorts of claims and accusations against Agnelli, against Woodward, saying I spoke to Agnelli on Saturday and he was very much in favor for the UEFA reforms. He squashed the rumors with the Super League, said the same about Woodward. And you could just see the incessant desperation on his face, knowing that he's completely been blindsided, which means these guys, these 12 owners or these 15 owners, whoever banded together, basically showed them a masterclass on how to organize and present a united front. Now, first, look, there will be legal considerations, but if we for a second are under the illusion that these guys don't have an army of lawyers that have already sifted through all the documents and on the basis of which they've secured funding or a promise for funding, I mean, come on. These guys have probably gone through every set of every rule book possible to try and figure out if this was possible.
Like City have already beat UEFA on their own.
Exactly. So I mean, there's precedent. You know, these guys have always bent over backwards, and they will continue to because they've made these guys too big.
Well, they haven't got a choice, really. That's what I said. Like they need
These guys have
more than
way
that.
too much leverage. Way too much. I mean, these guys are making UEFA is making claims. We're going to ban this. We're going to ban that. So are the FAs. And you have Florentino Perez saying impossible. The president of a club, albeit Real Madrid, standing up against governing bodies like FIFA, UEFA, domestic FAs, saying impossible. You think they haven't looked into these matters? If they haven't and they're putting out statements like this, then I must say Perez is stupid. But my money's on Perez and this band of 12 owners for having done their research, because they have a lot of their own skin in the game. They're not idiots. Come on. The Super League gets its way. And they may make a few concessions. The Nayslayer suggestion, I think, is pretty nice. And while Tony's point remains that, it sort of creates a new hierarchy, but UEFA will have to play by their rules, I think. They've dug their own graves.
I'd go through a couple of comments. Hamza says everyone dreams of winning the Champions League, not the Super League.
Can I just...
The Champions League didn't exist?
Yeah. Well, that's what... Yeah, so, I don't know how many, 20, 30 years ago, everyone dreamed of winning the European Cup, not the Champions League. And before that, no one dreamt of winning the Premier League. They dreamt of winning Division 1 up until the early 90s. So these things do... Do you know what's so annoying? I'm actually against the fucking idea, but I spent the whole show fucking defending it. But
join the club, bud. Hey,
my five's going up to a 7 slowly.
but, do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Yeah. While I agree with where Hamza's coming from, I didn't dream. I wish I could see Arsenal win the Super League. But then, when my dad was going to every game for 10 years in the late 80s, early 90s, when he was at Anfield at 89, he didn't go, "Oh, this would be much better if it was the Premier League." Did he fuck? Didn't exist.
Didn't exist. Yeah. Does the world? What's this do? This is a big question that's come around. Does this mean the FIFA Club World Cup is dead? Like this is, and also we've got Euros coming up, haven't we?
You'll get teams like River Plate and whatnot, the big teams, probably invited to one-off seasons of the Super League, I'd imagine, and they may have to take up a European base, but they've sold their soul already by having the Copa Libertadores final at the Bernabeu. But I'd imagine they'll do guest seasons of clubs like that. And I think they trialed it in the Copa Libertadores this year, where they allowed American teams, it was the Copa America. USA and Canada or someone else played in it anyway. So I think that sort of thing will happen. But the Club World Cup, I mean, look, FIFA have fucked up with the Club World Cup because they saw the amount of money in club football and wanted to get involved. So they've been extending it, inviting more and more teams, and it's just not really worked. No one gives a shit. It's a glorified friendly. And the other thing that doesn't get mentioned enough when people are debating about the Champions League, it hasn't been the Champions League for my lifetime. If you look at, I can't remember the exact number, but I think I read before that there's been 4 champions that have won the Champions League. What sort of nonsense is this? The Man United treble in 99 should never have happened because we won the league in 98. So Man United shouldn't have been in the Champions League. Istanbul, Liverpool, possibly the greatest game of football ever played, shouldn't have happened. So where I don't understand where people's morals are. They're okay with one thing, which is clearly wrong, but then they're not okay with something else, which is also clearly wrong. I just think
it's a UK bloke coming over to the dark side, Schwinn.
I'm not. Yeah, and the Aussie one as well.
I get it, and this is the problem, Tony. People saying one thing, but then this, it's so.
If you take the emotion out of it, I think that's basically what you're trying to say, Taz. If you take the emotion out of it, which it's not a fun exercise to do that, but it's the ecosystem in which these guys are operating. It makes complete sense.
Tony, Schwinn, Tony mentioned earlier, we've all been in business, run businesses. I'll be honest. If I'm focused solely on business and I'm focused solely on money, I'm in. I'm all in.
No brainer.
No brainer at all.
Roberto, you guys and the listeners to just have a look at these quotes that are emerging. from Perez. They're a riot. They're hilarious. So yeah, whenever you guys get a moment, please go
I'll
do
have a
that.
look. Roberta says, does the Champions League and EL, do they walk UEFA? Do they walk away? I guess what he's asking is walk away, and does it only become a Super League? Look, that'd be an easy solution, because at the end of the day, UEFA, I feel as though they've just been pocketing a lot of money. Like, the executives, the shit going on behind the scenes, lads. So, do they walk away?
Well, it would be in the best interest, because then a Super League 2 would probably be created, and then that creates natural relegation and promotion. So you have your teams from your domestic league that. So say, for example, Leicester and West Ham. I know we're using them a lot.
Yeah.
They go into Super League 2, and then and with the Sevillas and the whoever else, what are the second tier of clubs in them countries? And then you have a natural promotion and relegation.
And is this the problem, though, Tony? They're trying to cut out the middleman in UEFA. So what's the bloke's name? From Real Madrid, he's the president.
Perez.
So he's obviously the chairman of this Super League. Are they? These guys are smart blokes, but are they going? Look, these middlemen in the middle are taking all the money, and this is what we're getting.
That's what they're doing.
That's basically what's happening.
That's not the problem. The problem.
Well, it's a problem for them. It's a problem for
of course it is.
Yeah,
because that's what they're trying to do. As I said, the problem.
Cut out the middleman.
Yeah, and that's not really a problem for anyone. The problem is because no one has allegiances to UEFA. They're a joke, and everyone will admit they're a joke. Even people that are really super anti the Super League, they'll admit UEFA are a joke. But it's so cutting out the middleman isn't the problem. It's again the grandfathering in. I think a lot of it comes back to the same problems. You make one of the big things I'm against. I don't really want to be a fan of a sport where winning and losing doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. I'll go back through some questions here. Thoughts. Is that Addy? Might be.
I don't think so.
Okay. Everyone is praising Nev. Gary Neville. I did see that. But wasn't he a part of the Man United side who once pulled out of the FA Cup one season? The guy's a hypocrite and part of the problem.
A fucking man. This Gary, I like Gary Neville as a pundit, and I know not a lot of people do. This Gary Neville loving is doing my head in to levels I never thought was possible. The guy brought a club, or invented a club, in tier fucking 500 of football, of English football, ploughed it with money till they went up through the leagues. When they were in the conference, they signed a striker that was a top scorer in the SPL outside of Celtic and Rangers, maybe even outscored some Celtic and Rangers players. Signed him while they were essentially still a part-time club. He's financially doping his way through football. He's openly celebrates when Man United play every week. When Cavani scores a goal, who's on stupid money for his age. Nothing against Cavani, because everyone's on stupid money. He gets a wage from Sky Sports for being a presenter. Sky Sports started all of this problem with the Premier League, and then has the fucking cheek to stand on TV going, "This is a joke. They're making football not about the everyday man." Fuck right off.
Yeah, I thought it was my first knee-jerk reaction on his comments was, he's hit the nail on the head. I think I even said it to you boys. Watching back and as things unfold, I'm like, hang on, you're a bit hypocritical. So yeah,
no, that's the problem. There's actually a lot there's a lot of what he said I agree with, pretty much all of it. But
it's coming from him.
He's a massive fucking hypocrite.
I know.
I was watching Sky Sports and I paused it obviously to go on this, and I know Schwinn's talking about Twitter. I can't go on Twitter when I'm recording because my phone goes into retard mode. But apparently Carragher has basically blamed Sky for all of this while on it, and it's not gone down too well. Apparently, I say.
I'll just go through
explosions everywhere. You love to see it. What a time to be alive.
There's a lot of talk around the VAR, and Nay says the idea is they have a good mic'd up referees, alternative VAR, salary cap. So if it's tweaked a bit, I'm all for it. Look, and this is the thing. It's probably football people running their own football game, I guess, where, we all say UEFA's a fucking joke. But I would like to think that they have. They seem to know what they're doing, and know what the fans want more so, I guess. Ryan says, I don't like the moral argument. It's superficial. It's a complete override of meritocracy.
Meritocracy.
Yeah, that one. No, you say Slayer goes on. If the SL2 is created, or Super League 2, what Tony was talking about, that will phase out domestic
I
league.
disagree with that. I just believe it becomes what the Europa League currently is. So I think SL1 becomes the Champions League, obviously a version of, and SL2 becomes the Europa League.
And that'd have to be
is what they're trying to do.
Away.
Well, yeah, I mean, or get pushed out. It's what they're trying to do with the Europa League anyway. I mean, it's only been the last 5 years that the Europa League winner gets into the Champions League. Not even 5 years, I don't think. Before that, didn't Sevilla win it 3 years in a row?
Yeah, it's been only about 3 years. It's been, I think.
Yeah, well, I know when we lost to Atletico in Wenger's last year, we would have got in, I think. So, I mean, look, but let's say it's 5 years. It might be less, but they're already going down that road of the Champions League and then the Europa League being the Champions League too. I'm frankly amazed they haven't already renamed it.
Yeah. No, he goes on and he says, Perez, there will be, he's quoting Florentino Perez, there will be an overhaul of the VAR, there will be better referees, and there will be upgrades so football can be enjoyed further. So
the Super League, the Super League though is now at a point of they're trying to pander to fans. So because the FA and UEFA have been doing that all day, the Super League are now trying to think what the fans want, and we'll say we're going to do that. There's
I'm
PR
not
on
following
both
news
sides.
live. Is this coming out now? Is it or
give or take?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
He's on radio right now, Spanish radio.
So Super League are okay. They've popped up, so that's very interesting.
Well, I mean, they've got a thing about this time of night because obviously this is when the news broke. And again, that's another worrying thing for English viewers. Australians probably don't give a shit. Schwinn probably will because of the time difference. This time is obviously perfect for hits for them. That's why they do it at around 11 p.m. Do I really want to watch or be going to an Arsenal game at home to Tottenham at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday? Game finishes at 1. Doesn't really matter to me. I don't give a shit. I don't work, or I work from home. Does the guy who works 9 to 5 in an office want to go to a game that finishes at 1 a.m.? Probably not. And there's, as I said, there's been factors. This time is clearly important to them. They dropped the news of the whole event at this time, and now they're doing all their interviews and their backlash, or their not backlash. What's the word? Their damage control, I guess. They're doing it at 11 p.m. So, and Schwinn said it many times. They're clever people. This ain't an accident. They've not used. They've not picked the same time 2 days in a row for someone's favorite numbers 11. Right? There is somewhere. I'd actually like to have a worldwide clock in front of me now to see if you can try and figure out which countries this suits, whether it's the Arab Emirates country or the Middle Eastern countries, whether it's America, whether it's China. But this has all been done on purpose. And again, it's a worry that kickoffs will become this time because it's clearly good for clicks and views, which is what the whole league would be based on. Without viewers, this league doesn't exist, where there's an argument the Premier League could half exist without viewers. But yeah, do I want to be going to Arsenal v anyone at 11 p.m? As I said, not really. I would still go because it doesn't affect my life, but I'm in a lucky position. Most people work a proper job, and that's just not. Do you know what I mean? Local time.
Yeah.
No one. I think it's illegal, to be honest. I think there's a rule that no event in England.
Well, I hate to say
on midnight.
I hate to say it. They're not thinking about you guys over there, and I think this is where the backlash is coming from. Is people in the UK, and whether I've heard it over the years, where the foreign fan doesn't matter. He knows nothing about football. Blah blah blah. Okay. I know nothing about maybe the local communities and the history of your sport and things like that. But I think this is what, they're going, no, we're going to a global audience, and it's probably a kick in the guts to you fellas over there.
Well, but then it is franchise football, and then the clubs will move. And does anyone have the right to just go and move a club? For me, that that's a big no,
That's
and
a massive
maybe
no for
maybe
me
that's
either.
maybe that's
Sure.
selfish, but yeah, I mean,
No, I get it.
which
I get
case, in which case, why not just create a new franchise league and start 12 new clubs, give them all fucking frankly ridiculous amounts of money to go and buy the best players and still views that way. Leave your Arsenals and whatnot where they are, and your Manchesters. And look, it's inevitable if it happens that 2 of the London clubs will be moved, at least one of the Manchester clubs.
Yeah, well, here it's 9 a.m. in the morning. It honestly wouldn't help for sport here at 9 a.m. Wouldn't matter what day of the week it is. But yeah, we get the MLS at 10 a.m., 10 a.m. from the American leagues. I watch them, but, you know, I'm retired too. So most people are at work. So I don't know. But Nay Slayer says this league caters for America because everywhere else it's either really late or really early. It's 1 a.m. there, so interesting.
Yeah, messy times ahead.
Okay, boys, that's about it for us, I think. Schwinn, you got any last say on anything there, mate?
Yeah, just that change is hard. We got to be open-minded, and I understand that when things become ambiguous, they unsettle people. It's only natural, and disturbing the status quo, as appealing as it can be conceptually and before it is ordained or detailed, we all yearn for it. But in the face of it, we all worry. But I'm excited. I think this is the natural progression of where things were going to go. We've seen it building up in the last 10 years. If you look at isolated events, especially with the knowledge now of where we are, and it makes sense. I'm happy that UEFA and all these crooks are running for the hills and trying to find some sort of compromise, perhaps in the long run. And I'm just hopeful that if this is to come to fruition, that the sport doesn't die, and we are able to find some sort of solution for the local fans in England, for fans in Europe, I should say, and at the same time also increase the global appeal and eyes on the sport. Very wishful, but hey, I'm the optimist amongst the 3 of us, so I got to do my job, right?
Well, you just mentioned something for the first time, and it is what scares a lot of people. You're hopeful football doesn't die. For me, anything that puts a chance of that, even if it's a 2% chance on the table, I'd rather bet the devil, you know. And as I said, I fucking hate UEFA. I think they're a joke of an agency. But if the alternative is football potentially dying, like, my identity is practically football. Like,
well, think of it this way: you finally get to move out of England, which is a long-standing dream for you.
I mean, it's not a dream, but I've literally considered that. Like today, that's actually been running through my head today. That if Arsenal aren't here, then there's no point in me being here. Like,
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
I've always
their self-interest will drive them to at least not kill the sport.
I can't
But
see it happening.
apart from these guys and a select few, what happens to the rest of the clubs, rest of the leagues? Let's not forget the staff and, of course, the fans, everyone involved in the clubs. You know, they're the ones who are going to really have to make serious compromises, serious cuts, at least in the short term. The pandemic isn't helping either. So there will be lots of turmoil. But as I said, change is hard. And we've come to a point where these people feel it's necessary and they have the power to make those decisions now. So don't blame us commentators or the owners. Blame UEFA. Blame the FAs. They're the ones who are culpable. They're the ones who put us in this position.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Sorry, that's the thing is they've put this on themselves. Like, they have continued since 1992, right? When David Dean and they got in a meeting and created little Premier League, and it's just got so big so quick. Like 1992, boys. That's, you know, I don't think they expected it to get this big. And as I said before, when you start rubber stamping transfer deals for $140 million for a Neymar. Yeah, okay. It's
200.
200 million, sorry. For a Neymar transfer, then you need serious questions on where and PSG, look, they're pretty flash with cash. But like, you need to start asking questions. Even when you're rubber stamping a 72 million Pepe deal for Arsenal, like, you need to ask yourself questions. And like, not a salary cap, because I'm against the salary cap, but you allowed clubs to outspend. You basically gave the green light for clubs to continue to outspend. And with your Sky Sports transfer deadline days and your maximum wages with Ozil at 350 pounds a week, Messi, I'd hate to see what he's on a week. I think they've created their own drama, and now clubs are going, we need more money. We need more money in the sport, and this is where it's coming from.
Just no, well, Schwinn said change is necessary, and me and him actually had this conversation earlier. You was in the group, but you'd have been asleep. My stance on it is change is inevitable, but change didn't need to happen, because for all UEFA's faults, and as much as I dislike them, the product they currently provide, the Champions League is fantastic, and the Europa League is sort of becoming relevant because of the likes of the Big Six. 2 of them are guaranteed to not be in the Champions League. The same in Italy. You've got they only get 3 spaces, and you've got your Romas, your Napolis, your Inter, AC, Juventus, Atalanta. So the quality is trickling down. The money side of it, one, I don't really care about because it's nothing to do with me, but I can completely see where the owners are coming from. The money's being funneled out, which is insane. But in terms of what we see as fans, and as I said, we all said as businessmen we would do exactly what these owners are doing. But as a fan, I don't think change was necessary, because I think the products we've got now in terms of the Champions League and Europa League are probably the best they've ever been. But someone else sprang up earlier that, like, we've been saying the Premier League are hypocrites or Sky are hypocrites because of the Premier League. And people have kind of left UEFA alone on that bit. But Cup Winners' Cup no longer exists. People tell me Arsenal haven't won a European trophy because it doesn't exist anymore. Pretty sure we have. Pretty sure I was alive. Pretty sure I watched it. Pretty sure my dad was there. The UEFA Cup. That suddenly became a league format because they wanted to increase revenue and show more games. So we've kind of let UEFA get away with it on that side of things, but they're as bad as everyone else.
Well, this is the thing: is the people. I don't know. I'm not here to change people's mind, but I as a fan, it's probably going to be very hard. But I personally, I think, well, I get to watch the best of the best every week, midday week, and Arsenal are a part of it. So as a fan, I'm kind of like in Australia thinking, hey, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch a midweek game, and I'm going to watch your Juventus v Arsenal, or Barcelona v who else is in it? AC Milan or so. I'm going to watch really good games midweek, aren't I? And I'm going to pay the $15 a month for it. So this, boycotting and fucking whatnot, well, I don't get it. I honestly don't. Like, people asked for it, but people don't want it. Is that what I'm getting? Like, I think the domestic leagues, they will still go ahead. And if the domestic leagues still go ahead with all these teams, and basically the Champion League and UEFA League disappear, or Europa League, is it a bad thing? Like, I don't think it is it? I don't know. It's not bad for me.
No, I mean, the point you just touched on is fans want everything to change, but nothing to change. They want every club or their club to be able to go and spend 100 million like it's no problem and offer top-end wages, but they also want absolutely nothing to change at the same time. They don't want to pay more for their kits. They don't want to pay more for their tickets. They don't want to pay extra to watch their team on TV. They don't want to dip into their pockets, and in a sense, rightly so. But then you can't have both.
Exactly, you can't have both. I'm just going to couple more quick thoughts before we go, and we'll wrap this up. Does boycotting really work? I don't think it does.
For me, only if it's a worldwide boycott, because as you said, the fans in London might fuck it off, but that'll be replaced by the fans in Delhi, Sydney, Los Angeles, and every Lagos and wherever else.
The thing is, it's now become a global game. The NFL is kind of a global game, but like I'll be honest, it's nowhere near as a global brand over here as what it was as the Premier League is.
Not even close.
So it's the Premier League are a real massive global game. I think the argument is that with the Premier League is that they still allowed small teams through no one is guaranteed. How we were scared of relegation at some point this season.
But I don't know if Nate Slayer has been listening the whole time. He's had some really good comments, but I kind of touched on this earlier. We was never going to go down. We were bad for us. We were still 11th. We were still probably 6 points clear, and we still had 20 odd games and a January transfer window to sort it out. It was just, as I said, the Premier League grandfathers teams without grandfathering teams because we have so much power. And so much influence and so much money. As I said, he's right in what he's saying that they could go down. The reality is they can't. Like, as I said, I've got the list of the teams in front of me. Well, it's on Sky Sports. Arsenal are not going to go down. Villa only just come up, so you could go, okay, they could go back down. Brighton, they flirt with it every year, so they could go down. Burnley probably ain't going to go down. Chelsea are never going to go down. Palace have been in the league for fucking ages without any threat. Everton ain't going to go down. Fulham are going to go down. Leeds, they've only been back a year, but it looks like they're not going to go down in the foreseeable. Leicester ain't ever going to go down. Liverpool ain't going to go down. City, United ain't going to go down. Newcastle, they shouldn't, but okay, they're in a bit of jeopardy because they got a shit owner. Sheffield United are going to go down. Southampton ain't going to go down. Tottenham ain't going to go down. West Brom are gone. West Ham shouldn't, but they have a few problems. And Wolves ain't going to go down. So, I mean, at the start of the season, it'd be interesting to look at our season predictions because, okay, we've been wildly wrong, but none of us think Arsenal could go down or Man United.
I had West Ham to go down. That's how bad they were last season.
Yeah,
so I think in my predictions.
No, we could be wildly wrong, but there's at least 12 teams that not a single person on earth would say they're going to go down. So.
Like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing, this Super League, but I think the best option would be UEFA to step away. They won't. I don't think they will without a fight. They will want to put their hands in the pocket. They got their hands in the piggy tin, and they will want. They're not just going to walk away from millions of dollars. So I don't know what the resolution is, but. Yeah,
that's the difficult bit.
Okay, boys, that'll do. Let's go. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back in probably 24 hours' time to discuss Fulham and what else we got to discuss? A victory, win, Europa League. Does it mean anything now? I don't know. So we will be back, and obviously we'll keep in touch with this news, and we will talk about that as well. And yeah. We'll see how we go. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Follow us at Clock and where are we now? At CET Arsenal Podcast. The CET Podcast. Fuck me, Dad. I hate that. I hate everything about that. See you, boys.
Adios.
Cheers.